Look at what somebody sent me in the mail. That is $10 in blue wind chips. Not only that, but you know how they sent this to me? Take a look at this picture. I threw away the package, but luckily they tweeted a photo of the mailer to me. It says, "To Andrew Nemi, the poker player, care of Wynn Las Vegas, whichever cashier is in or closest to the poker room." And then the address of the Wynn Casino. Yeah, I'm a little shocked that A, somebody sent me $10 in the mail, and B, that they sent it to me, care of the Wynn, and which is whichever cashier happens to be closest to the poker room. And furthermore, that the cashier at the Wynn held on to it for me. There was also a note in the package. It says, "Andrew, great vlog. Buy your drone a beer from me." Okay, cheers from Minnesota. Keep up the run goods, Andrew Lipkin. Thanks, Andrew. I appreciate that, man. $10, that was super kind. Highly unexpected, and extremely unexpected that it not only made it from Minnesota without anybody breaking into the package, but also the Wynn cashier delivering it to me. It just so happened that I showed up at the Wynn poker room the same day that it arrived at the Wynn poker room. So thanks, buddy. Thanks for the $10. I'm gonna use this and buy a beer later on. Thanks for the beer money. It just dawned on me that CES is happening right now, one of the biggest conventions for Las Vegas throughout the whole year. So you never know what effect any one particular convention will have on the games. Anything that brings more people to town is usually a good thing. Whether that actually improves any one particular game quality, who knows? But yeah, usually the more people that are in Vegas, the better it is for the games. Alright, so I'm currently second up on the list for the 5-10 game here at the Bellagio. You know the drill, won't be able to film at the table, unfortunately. So I'm just gonna, I guess, just keep going back and forth in Vegas between games I can film and can't film. I know there's people that prefer I play higher stakes and talk about some of those hands. There's other people who just want to see the live action and don't care what the stakes are. So trying to please everybody, I guess, as well as just keep to my regular routine as much as possible. So I'm gonna play 5-10 today, at least to start, and see how the game is, proceed from there. Alright, so I've been playing for a couple hours now, and games are pretty good. CES crowd seems to be positive for poker here at the Bellagio, at least, but there's already been a couple of interesting hands, so I wanted to relay those real quickly before I get back to it. So in this first hand, the hijack opens for $40. I looked at it 2 queens and decided to put in a 3-bet. I make it 130 to go. It folds over to the small blind, who is a regular here in Vegas. I played with him a few times. He's definitely a good player. I think he trends a little bit tighter than some other regs, but definitely capable of widening his range here and there. So he's in the small blind, and he makes it 360 to go, and it folds back to me. I think when it goes hijack open, cutoff 3-bet, I think our ranges can be a little bit on the wider side here, as opposed to if the original raise was from under the gun and say the 3-bet was from under the gun +1 or +2, for example, something like that. So I think he could be taking advantage of my 3-bet. I don't know the original raiser, so I don't think he's a reg. So he could be coming after me thinking I'm raising this guy a little bit lighter. So I don't see myself folding this hand, certainly not pre-flop, and on a good flop, probably not on a good flop either. So So I decided to call, and we go heads up. Flop is pretty good for my hand. Flop is 10-10-7 with 2 hearts. He puts in a C-bet like I expect him to do with his entire range. He bets 330. At this point I'm planning on just going with the hand, planning on calling him down. I expect him to jam a brick turn, even if he has ace-king, ace-queen, ace-jack, one of those types of hands. Obviously if he has aces or kings, he's going to be moving in with that, and I'm probably just gonna have to pay him off in that case. Again, I always come back to the fact that it's hard to define someone else's range, and it's better to kind of just play your own range, I think. Pocket queens definitely towards the top of my range here, so planning on just going with the hand regardless. So I flat the C-bet, and we go to a turn. Turn is not a good card at all. Turn is an ace. Now I am behind the vast majority of his range, I think. He continues betting, but he puts out a very small bet. He bets 250. Tiny bet into this pot, but he's only got about 350 behind after this bet. It's a pretty crappy situation. We're losing to a ton of his bluffs, a ton of his pre-flop bluffs. If he has any sort of suited ace type hand, we're obviously losing now. We still lose to those big overpairs. We don't beat very much. We can beat jacks. If he does have some suited connectors in his range, like 6-5, things like that, he could probably also have a bunch of 10s in his range. So there's not a whole lot that we beat here. If we call here, we're obviously never folding, and just gonna have to go with it. In the end, I thought for a while, but in the end, I just assumed that there's such a narrow part of his range that we can still beat in this spot. My hand goes from the top of my range to a complete standard bluff catcher. Not a good situation, I don't think, so I decided to let it go. It's pretty, it feels pretty gross to have to fold to a $250 bet into this size of a pot, but it's possible. There's some percentage of the time where I'm going to get bluffed there by some suited connector type hand, or if he happens to have a king queen or a king jack type hand in his 3-bet range, then we're gonna have to get bluffed here sometimes. But I don't know, I let it go. Not too sure if that's a good fold or not, but oh well. Pretty bad turn card. Good turn card for him regardless. Or I don't know, maybe it saved me the last $500 or $600 or so. I did fire the hand over to the text message group to get some feedback, and 2 very smart poker players that I'm friends with disagreed with each other. One of them agreed with me. They took the exact same line that I did. The other one said that he would just call down, call turn, call river. So still grinding, gonna get back to it. Stuck a little bit, but game seems decent, so I'm gonna keep after it. All right, just taking another break here. Game is good. Game is above average for sure. Decent amount of action. Stuck a little bit though. Down a few hundred, so not too bad. A couple more hands to deliver before I hop back in there real quick. In the first one, the under the gun player limped in, and I looked down at 6-7 of diamonds. Decided to raise it up, try an ISO, so I make it 40 to go. The player on my left, the cutoff, he calls, and the big blind is that same reg that I got in that hand with earlier when I had the pocket queens. This time he puts in a 3-bet. He makes it 180 to go. Folds back to me, and we're definitely deep enough to call here, so we go heads up. Flop is interesting. Flop is king 8-5 with 2 diamonds. Pretty good flop for 6-7 of diamonds. So he puts in a C-bet. He bets 240. And it's a question of whether to call or raise at this point. I think he's got about 900 or so behind. So whatever we raise, we're obviously committing ourselves here, and it'll be obvious that we are. So it's interesting. It's a question of, will he fold better? Well, we only have 7 high, so any hand that he folds is a better hand. So will he have ace queen in this type of spot? He could. Will he have king queen and fold it to a raise? I think he could. Whether or not he 3-bets a king-queen type hand, tough for me to say, but he could have king-queen and be in very bad shape against my raising range, because I'm either going to need to have a hand like I have, or some sort of a strong flush draw, or a set, or ace-king, and king-queen is in very bad shape against that sort of range. So I think it seems like a raise is a decent idea here. Like I said, we only have 7 high. We have no showdown value. Happy to win the pot right away. So I put in the raise. I make it like 700 or something. I don't think it really matters what I raise to, because we're not that deep, and it'll be obvious that we're committing and going with the hand. So here's what it is. I make it 700, and he doesn't think for very long. He just lets it go. So it didn't seem like he had too strong a hand. Who knows, really? Maybe he just gave me a ton of credit, which is possible, but likely that he didn't have too much there, so he let that one go. So we'll take that one down happily with the 7 high. Lots of equity there, but still had 7 high, and anytime you win a pot with 7 high is a pretty good result. Still after it, still battling away. Gonna get back to it after I admire some of these statues. How long do you think, how many hours do you think it takes to A, get good enough to carve these things, and then just bang these things out? Each one of these things, you know what these things go for? Take a guess at what this thing costs. What's the price tag on this thing? This statue. Here's your answer. This one here, take a guess. Take a guess at this one. Take a guess. Huh? You got your answer locked in? I better get back to it if I'm going to be making a purchase of one of these statues. Just wrapping up the session. Pretty long one. It's 5 in the morning now. Started our session a little bit after 6 p.m. So almost an 11-hour session there. Another long one. Game was good though. Definitely happy to stick around when the game is good, and it's always good to see good 5-10 games at the Bellagio. A couple more hands to report. As you can tell, I'm in the car now because it's freezing outside, and by freezing I mean it's like mid-30s. I know there's people in Illinois and Canada and elsewhere where they might be happy for a low of mid-30s, but this is pretty damn cold for Las Vegas. So I'm in the car trying to warm up a little bit while I tell you these hands. So anyway, next interesting hand came when the under the gun player limped, and I looked down at Queen Jack. Looks like a raising hand to me, so I make it 40 to go, and we get 3 callers. So we go 4 ways to a flop, which pretty favorable. Flop is ace, queen, queen with 2 spades. So we flop trips. There's 2 checks, and I bet half pot. I expect flush draws to continue. I expect an ace to continue. Probably even could have bet a little bit bigger here, since, like I said, those hands aren't folding, even for a bigger size. So could have bet bigger. Anyway, I bet 80. The player on my direct left calls, and the other 2 players fold. So we go heads up to a turn card. Turn is a brick, which is a good card for us. We don't want to see any spades or aces. So I bet 190 on this turn card. My opponent thinks briefly and then makes the call. Pretty good developments. I fully expect to have the best hand here. And the river card is another brick. So great run out for us, and the player in this hand had previously made a fold, a big fold, very recently. So I don't feel like he's looking to fold too often, but I also don't want to go too crazy and blow him off the hand. Obviously, if he has spades, he's not calling anything, but if he just has like a weak ace, like I expect him to, weak to medium ace, maybe up to ace jack even, I expect him to call a decent amount. but I don't expect him to call all in by any means. So I put in a medium-sized bet, maybe a little bit smallish, but not too small. I bet 420, and he thinks for not that long, and then he makes the call. I show my hand, he mucks. So scoop that one. Queen Jack comes through again, one of my favorite hands. Good old Queen Jack. Most interesting hand of the evening, the hijack, who is a regular. He opens for $40. Look down at pocket eights on the button. Pretty standard call, I think. Don't want to 3-bet and don't want to face a 4-bet, so standard call, I think. And the big blind calls as well. So we go 3 ways to a flop of 9-7-6 with 2 hearts. So we flop second pair and open ender. They both check to me, and I decide to put in a bet. We can often have the best hand here. We block all straights and we protect ourselves a little bit from any overcards coming and ending up with the worst hand. So I think a bet is okay because we can even call a raise. We can call a check raise. So I put in a bet and I bet $80. The big blind does decide to put in a raise. He check raises to 200. Not a very big raise. It's only 120 more, so it's back on us. And obviously can't fold here with an open-ended straight draw for this price. So I think it's a pretty standard call. Call seems pretty straightforward. Turn is a brick. Turn is an offsuit 4, which changes nothing. So this time he bets $500, and this is a pretty big turning point for the hand. It's a pretty big bet size here on the turn, very big, close to pot size. So the question is, do you want to call and draw to your straight as well as to some potential bluff cards, which would include all hearts? The straightforward play, I think, is to just let it go with that bet sizing. It's pretty big bet sizing. It's a question of whether you'll get paid off when your straight comes in, and will you have fold equity when a heart comes in. So he has about $1,200, maybe a little more, maybe $1,250 behind the 500. So there's decent stack size left to be played if I call the 500. It seems like we have a good number of cards that we can hit that to either improve our hand or to rep as a bluff. It seems like we'll more likely have a flush draw here than a straight draw because perhaps some players might be reluctant to draw to a straight with a flush draw on board. So I think we could pretty credibly rep a heart flush if a heart comes in on the river. So I decided to make the call and we head to the river. River brings the heart flush in. River is the king of hearts. My opponent, he does the little act where he grabs some chips and then he checks. It's kind of a sign where people, you know, they put on the show like they're ready for action. They're ready to call any bet. And usually it's just that, it's a show. So that's a little bit extra confidence boost for the bluff, represent the flush. So I decided to stick to the plan. Grab some of those $10 orange chips and grab all my black chips that I have and assemble a bet of about $1,250. Send that out into the middle. The big blind, he asks how much it is, and it covers him. So he goes into the tank and cue the elevated heart rate, which I still get. Semi surprisingly, after all these years, still get the elevated heart rate in big pot situations. But good news is that I get it whether we are value betting or bluffing. So pretty tough for anyone to get a read off of that, I think. I mean, I don't know. I've never really stared at myself. Anyway, he goes into the tank and talks to himself, talks to me a little bit. I don't really engage in these situations, so I'm just kind of passing the time. Then he says the magic words or the non-magic words. Not sure what you want to call it, but he says, flush is good. Tosses in a few chips, and that's some bad news. I say you got it. I show the pocket eights, and he rolls over 9-7 of diamonds. So he flopped top 2 pair there. So even if I don't really hate my line, I think my line for sure makes sense from a theoretical perspective. And even if you showed me his 9-7 on the river, I'm pretty sure I would still make the all-in bluff there, because when he has 9-7 there, it makes it less likely that I have 9-8 or 7-8. And he blocks the straight draw and he doesn't block the flush draw, so it makes it more likely that I have the flush draw. So in that regard, I still like my play from a theoretical perspective. So the question is, and this is the conversation that I had with the old text message group. Once again, one of my friends agreeing with my line, and one of my friends saying just give it up on the turn, because people don't like folding. Question is, what's best? Do you play from that theoretical perspective and take the GTO line, make the all-in bet because it's pretty likely you don't have the best hand here, and his holdings should make it more of a fold? Or do you go the exploitive route and assume that live players, they don't like to fold? People don't like to fold, you know? People, live poker is very slow. It takes you a long time to make a hand like 2-pair or a set or something like that, and it is no fun folding these hands. So that being the natural human trait, people get bored. They like making hands, they don't like folding. What's best? Should you take that theoretical line, that GTO line, or should you take the exploitive line and just fold, or just check it back and give up? It's the never-ending debate. You have to try and pigeonhole people as best you can, see who's in a folding mood, see who isn't, see who came to Vegas to play some hands and not fold, and see who has more patience to wait for a better spot. It's tough to pinpoint which player is, you know, in which bracket. So I really like my line from a theoretical perspective. Do I like it from the average live lineup? I'm happy that I was able to make sense of the situation and pull the trigger on the river. I'm happy about that. Not happy about losing the pot, because that's a bunch of money, but oh well. You move on, try to make it back. Not a ton of scenery in today's vlog, but you know, when you play for 11 hours, you stay after it, after the grind, you don't end up doing too much else. Don't end up doing too much sightseeing. I'm not gonna make it to the bar today because several reasons. A, it is now almost 6 in the morning, now that we've had these hand history discussions. And B, I'm going out tomorrow. Some friends are coming over, coming to my place for happy hour, and then we're gonna go out downtown. 2 days ago, on January 4th, that was my birthday. So it's basically the day after my birthday right now, or technically 2 days after, since it's now Friday, but my birthday was on the 4th. We hung out with my fiance's family, just kept it pretty low-key on my actual birthday. Going out with friends tomorrow. Good news is, after all the action that happened in the game today, all the ups and downs, we booked a win. We won $788. So that's good. That's the good news. Not really any bad news. It was an interesting day. We played some pretty fun hands. Pretty happy with the way I played. Some really interesting spots there. I'm sure you guys will let me know how terrible I played some of these hands. Some other of you guys will say you would have done the same thing, and that's the thing with poker. There's sometimes there's some not so clear decisions that can be made. So it's always interesting. But yeah, feel free to share all your thoughts, all your feelings about my poker play. Looking forward to reading it all. All right. Catch you guys later.